Lesson today is 3-4, and this should be found on page 33 of your table of contents. Please make sure you're filling it out. The percent equation. And so we're going to be taking what we learned on the last lesson, the is over of equals percent over 100, and just rewriting it in a different way. Still solving, very similar, but using equations to do our solving. And we're going to get pretty good at some algebraic steps as we go through, some pre-algebra that you need to get to. So please make sure you got your table of contents filled out, and then you're going to be flipping over to page 33 in your journal. So make sure that you number at page 33 if you haven't already done so. Whoops, this should be 34. And yeah, 30, 31. Oh, no, 32. Whoops. Oops. This is 33. And so we should be gluing on to that page. And yep, 33% equation. Sorry about that. I had that on the right side. So this is on the right side of the page, and we'll be gluing the notes here into it. So we're going to write on it first, and then we'll glue. So percent equation. So to solve any type of percent problem, and then I'm just reading it in the box here, you can use the percent equation, which is pretty much written part equals. An equation is something that has an equal sign in it. Part equals percent times the whole value, where the percent is written as a decimal. So today we're going to be practicing writing our percents as decimals, and we're going to get really good at that. And so again, our part is our is, and of our whole is our of. That's our whole part. And remember that is over of equals percent over 100. We can still set up our equations and solve very similar. So you can still use the is over of equals percent over 100, but we're going to learn this method to practice it and get good at it. So in question 1, it says write an equation for each problem and then solve. And so a lot of this too is just writing the equation. So the first question on here says what percent, and we're going to break it into parts. The what percent is my x, my unknown, and I still have my of 56. So that's my of, and then my is 14. And if we were setting it up like we were in the last lesson, it would be is over of equals percent over 100, and we would solve using proportions. But today we're going to use the equation. So just a reminder, the is equals, that's the part, equals the percentage of the whole. And this is kind of how we set things up today, so a little different. So my is 14 equals the percentage I don't know, so it'd be x times my of, which is 56. And it simply becomes an equation. And again, to get x by itself and to get rid of multiplying by 56, I would do the opposite of multiplying by 56, which is divide by 56. And so I wind up getting these canceling out, and I wind up getting that x is equal to, and I'm just going to flip the pan balance around. X does not have to be on the right, it can be on the left. And x equals 14 divided by 56. Now, if you take that x equals 14 over 56. If you can understand that this can actually be cross-canceled or reduced in some way, not really cross-canceling, sorry, just reduced, you should know that 7 goes into 14. So if I divide 14 by 7, I get 2. And if I divide 56 by 7, I get 8. And then you might notice I can half those and get it down to 1/4. And a quarter is my answer, except for I want it as a percentage. So you have to know that 1/4 equals 25%. And I wanted the percentage. And there it is, 25%. Let's take a look at number 3 right here below. And it says 80 is, and so I pull my parts out, 80 is 40% of what I don't know, and that's my unknown x. So 80 is my is. So I'm going to put my is equals my percent but I'm going to move the decimal 2 places to the left on that to have it as a decimal. So it's going to be 4/10, and I can get rid of the 0 here, of what number I don't know. Okay, so I am going to be dividing, because the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to be dividing by 4/10 to get rid of the 4/10, and I'm going to divide 80 by 4/10 over here. So I'm going to take my 80 and I'm going to divide it by 4/10. And just a reminder, when you're dealing with decimals, that you have to move the decimal to the right. The decimal on 80 is behind it. I'm going to move my decimal 1 place to the right on both the divisor and the dividend, and I'm going to bring it up in the quotient. So to divide by a decimal into a decimal, move the decimal right. To divide by a decimal into a decimal, move the decimal right. Move the decimal right in the divisor, move the decimal right in the dividend, bring the decimal up in the quotient. That's how it's done. 4 goes into 8 twice. And then there's 2 powers of 10 behind it. So my answer is 200. So 80 is 40% of 200. And that seems very logical. So in this case, my X is 200. So don't make these problems hard, but you just have to set them up. So back to the equation, is equals percentage of. So whenever you have the percent, it's just a reminder that you have to change this to a decimal first, okay? You can use fractions, but I prefer not to. What percent, okay, so we're looking for the percentage this time, of 2,000 is 8. So what percent, and our is 8, so is equals percent of my 2,000. And so it looks like that. So to get rid of multiplying by 2,000, I would divide by 2,000. So the opposite of multiplication is division. And so this is going to be 8 divided by 2,000. You're probably thinking, oh my gosh, that's little itty bitty, and it is. 8 divided by 2,000. So remember, cowboy rides a horse, cowboy inside, horse outside. The decimal goes here, and we should get a decimal because we're going to change it to a percent. So I'm going to put a 0 because 2,000 doesn't go into 8. It doesn't go into 80. It doesn't even go into 800, but it does go into 8,000 4 times. And then you move the decimal, because if you have to remember DP, decimal to percent, I move the decimal 2 places to the right. So loop-de-loop once, twice, and I wind up moving it to right there. So it'd be 0.4%, which is a very small percentage. And just a reminder, you have to put a percent sign on that, and you will in quizzes as well, put a percent on it to show that it is a percentage. All right, let's try a couple more. Let's go up here to 36 is what percent, another percentage, of 40. So my is 36 equals what percent of 40? So I divide by 40 here, opposite of multiplication, I divide by 40. I get X equals, and if you notice, both of these numbers can be reduced. I could divide by 4. 4 goes into 36 9 times, 4 goes into 40 10 times, and I get 9/10. And I want a percentage on that. So I'm going to write it over here, X equals 9/10. Well, just a reminder that percent means out of 100. So if I add a 0 here and here, 9/10 is the same as 90/100, which would be 90%. Some little tricks to learn right there. So just remember, percent means out of 100. And if you get that and you've got it out of 10, it's just putting a 0 on it. Or you could look at it as 9/10. And I'm going from decimal to percent and move the decimal 2 places to the right to get my 90%. 65% of what I don't know is 78. So 78 is my is. My percent is 65%. So I'm going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. And then of what I don't know, I'm going to divide by 6,500. These are going to cross off. So it's going to wind up being 78 divided by 6,500. I'm going to go ahead and put my decimal behind the 78. And I'm going to move my decimal 1, 2 places and bring my decimal up. Sorry, I shouldn't have brought it up there. So I had to move the decimal right in the divisor twice, move the decimal right in the dividend twice, and bring it up. 65 goes into 78 one time, which is 65. I get 130. And 65 twice, believe it or not, is 130. So that's a 2 there. I get 130 and nothing is left. And I move my decimal twice and it's behind the 12. So my answer, oh, actually, I have an open loop-de-loop right there. So I do have one more digit. So the 1 goes above the 8, the 2 goes above the 0. I do have to bring one more 0 down and it doesn't go in and it shouldn't be 12. 65% of 120 is 78 because otherwise 12 wouldn't make sense. So X equals 120. And it's just a number, it's not a percentage. You have to look at what it's asking for. If it asks for a percentage, you need to move the decimal and make it a percentage. If it asks for what number, it's just a single digit or a simple digits, 1, 2, or 3, or 4, how many digits, but it's an answer that's numeric, not a percentage. One last one we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and skip number 6. And these particular, well, I guess I could still do this one. What is my X 10% of my 80? So my is, I don't know. So X equals 10%. If I move the decimal 2 places would be 1/10. And then of 80, and that's just multiplying 1/10 of 80. And if you remember me talking about this on money, you're going to move the decimal 1 place to the left, or you can just multiply it out. Just remember your decimal moves 1 happy memory place. So you're going to move your decimal 1 place to the left on your 80 anyway. So you should get the answer of 8. So just plain old 8, and that's just moving 1/10, which divides by 1 power of 10. Last one on here, determine 30%. That's my percentage of 70. And nowhere in here does it say the is, but that's what I'm looking for. So again, move the decimal 2 places to the left. It'd be 3/10 of 70. And I'm multiplying 70 times 3/10. And I move my happy memory cloud 1 place to the left. So 70 times 3 is 210. Move the decimal 1 place to the left. X equals 21. So 30% of 70 is 21. And we've got our examples. And I know we skipped one, number 7, and that's okay. This should give you enough practice to get you where you need to go. And if you need help, that's something to refer back to. I look forward to working on this classwork. See you soon.